Pew Research Center published its April survey and found that 75% of Americans are not confident that the current ways to invest in, trade, or use crypto are reliable and safe. So just over 10,000 people over the age of 18 were surveyed, and many of them felt that their investments would have not performed as well as they would have liked them to. Adam, I'm tossing this over to you. I'm always very skeptical about surveys, especially when we talk about, people who have heard about crypto. Like, what does that actually mean? Did they just hear about crypto in the news? Did they read that news story and then did they sour on it? I don't know, but what did you make of some of the data that came out in this report?
I mean, as I've said multiple times so far in this episode and many others, we live in a time of monetary madness. So I think it's totally understandable and forgivable for people to, not trust new things, right? I think, again, like new things, a lot of times are not necessarily good things. And even when they are good things, a lot of times it just takes us time to get kind of comfortable with them and used to them. Cryptocurrency is still largely a technology that is being used for speculation rather than for sort of the actual tangible things that we think that it will make it valuable in the future. So again, it makes sense there. And then, of course, after the last year or two, again, with the bull market mania and the crashes and stuff like that, like it makes total sense. So that's one side of it. I think the other side of it is that the messaging, definitely, again, like people look to various sort of authorities for helping them understand complicated issues that they don't really want to take the time to build expertise on their own. And cryptocurrency is nothing if not a complex issue that requires understandings of money and kind of everything else. So again, like as we were talking about earlier, the sort of like non-standard standards that we've been seeing coming out of Washington, the increasing politicalization we've been seeing coming out of Washington around this, all of these things are warning signs for normal people looking at these types of technologies. And so I think it's very understandable. And I think that the US intentionally does not assist with that and is intentionally trying to play up as much of this as possible. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I'd actually go a step deeper, right? So this is a research about the people's views on cryptocurrency, which is a very broad term that I'm going to guess here just is a stand-in for everything to do with crypto, from Bitcoin to FTX to NFTs and everything. What I'm thinking more about is whether people should have trust and reliability in DeFi. And that's a step well beyond what the researchers are looking for here. But I would say that people don't there's a good reason why people wouldn't have confidence in the state of DeFi, because we see so often things getting hacked, smart contracts getting exploited, all these nitty-gritty details of the code working as intended in a way that the author, the coder, did not intend. So what we really need to think about here is not just what's happening at the Washington level, although that is critical for sure, because if you don't have people trusting in cryptocurrency with a big C, there's no reason whatsoever they'd even think about DeFi. But let's say they get past that initial hesitations, they need to look upon DeFi and actually see things that work. So I don't know how we accomplish that, but I think it is clear to me that something's got to be done about the state of DeFi just to make sure that it actually is reliable and secure, and that you won't lose your money if you put it in some sort of pool.
As you were talking there, I was thinking, how wonderful would it be if we could sit people down, first explain the state of the economy in the way that Adam does so nicely on the show, and so a 5-year-old can understand, explain what's going on in the governments, and then explain the concept of DeFi, and then do a survey as to how people feel about this entire sector. I think that we would get some very different results, but it would take a lot of work. When I was reading this, I thought about the last bull cycle. I thought about all of the Super Bowl ads. I thought about the sports sponsorships, all of those mainstream sponsorships. I think there was a Grammy sponsorship. And so it made sense to me that people would probably have dabbled in crypto for the very first time, bought in when the price was really, really high. And now when they're being surveyed, they're saying, you know what, I didn't actually make as much money as I thought I would. And for me, it just shows that, people were buying into the FOMO as everyone expected them to do, because tens of millions would not have been spent on that type of advertising if they didn't expect people to buy in. And so it wasn't surprising for me to see this. And I hope that these people aren't discouraged on the industry at large. Adam?
I think we all tell ourselves stories about mass adoption. And I think that that's true of companies that are working in the space too. Again, like the vision of these technologies is to not just be speculative tools, that people use to speculate, make money on, but actually that are quite useful. So I take a little bit of a lighter touch there. I think that, I think to Danny's point, when we're trying to figure out what should we be talking to people about and what is actually ready for people now, you mentioned that you think that DeFi education would be helpful. I actually think it would be terrifying, right? Like I've been in the space for a long time and there are a lot of risks that exist here. And those risks are a lot of times very difficult to quantify. And they're not necessarily ones that everyone needs to take. So I don't really feel like we need to be pushing DeFi to be ready for normal people. I think we need to be pushing DeFi to be as ridiculous as it can possibly be so that it discovers as many bad things as possible. And that by the time we get to the consumer use case, that those things aren't there anymore, right? We're not like practicing creating the next new casino, which is where a lot of the DeFi stuff kind of originally started. We've figured out how to create, a replacement for all casinos that completely removes many of the problems that are there and also doesn't have the smart contract risk that is implicit with a lot of the stuff that's out there. So I don't think, personally, I'll be happy if people just understand the basic concept of money and literally nothing about cryptocurrency before I'm going to ask people to try and understand the intricacies of DeFi and why they should trust it when I don't trust it.
Okay, let me clarify. When I said that people should know about it, it wasn't that I think everyone should just like ape into DeFi and then get caught up in a hack and lose their money. I think they should be aware that there are solutions or alternatives being worked on as part of this umbrella of like, when they talk about crypto and Bitcoin, it's not just price go up, price go down, but like solutions are being thought about to some of these systemic issues. That's what I was trying to say.
We've got one of those signs outside the nuclear facility, like days passed since last accident.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Now we're at, I think, 1. There was some Ave Urd thing yesterday. So we're at 1. We'll see what happens today.